Well, good morning to everybody. Blessings on your life. It's another day that the Lord has made, and we are going to rejoice and be glad in it. We're not just going to be glad in it, we're going to step into it. We're going to step into it. As I've said before, the day that the Lord has made is not a day that we observe with our natural eye. It is nothing that we embrace by monitoring the elements outside and the temperature. The day that the Lord has made is a day that He has prepared for your life, and you have to discover what that is. Um, we talked and we left off last week dealing with the eighth watch. And that eighth watch was packed with so many things, and I had to cut that short. And as promised, I told you that I would come back and I would try to conclude that on the day on this day this morning. Um, the eighth watch is a critical watch, and it is basically challenging us to embrace change. Not only is it challenging us to embrace change, it is challenging us to be vigilant, to be very vigilant, because things now are going to happen around us, whether we like it or not, and they are not going to be so controlled. In other words, they may or may not be to your favor or to your liking. And so it is a time to be vigilant. It is a time to be actively engaged because it will sneak up on you. This whole series has been about while men slept. The Bible says while they slept that the enemy came in and he sowed tares. And so the wisdom behind that is that the enemy is actively working while you are sleeping. And so that is problematic, and it's more problematic than what we know. And so now we are facing challenges that we are unaware of. And the Bible has given us some insight, but if you have not embraced the Word of God, then that insight will escape you, and it will leave you wanting. It will leave you longing. You'll be yearning for something. I said something a year ago, and even before that, I came before you all, and I know that I'm going to get criticized for this. I'm not calling myself anything. But I came before you all and I told you that something was coming. I said it's going to be great. I said even worse than COVID. I told you to prepare. This is what I said. I didn't get this from nobody. This is what the Lord put in me. Just like today, I'm gonna tell you what the Lord is telling me. I told you to prepare because it's going to be every round is going to be more aggressive. It's like a cancer. It's like a flu, a sickness, and it's going to mutate into something bigger and greater. And so while we're all sitting, waiting for the weather, for the wind, for the seas to bring us some type of virus in, and another virus is going to come. But that's not what I want to talk about. What I was talking about is here now. And what is here now is this world change. I mentioned last week that Noah, he was preaching to just a few people. It was very challenging for him to get an audience. And so he basically had a congregation of, about 8 people, 8 to 10, maybe 15 on a good Sunday, right? And he kept talking about it's going to rain. That was his message. He said, it's going to rain. It's going to rain. And while he was talking about it's going to rain, the Bible says faith without works is dead. And he believed in what he was saying. He was yet building the ark to prepare for what was going to come, or to prepare for what God had spoken to him. He started to move out in faith. And so really the irony, the wisdom behind it's going to rain, the message is going to rain, effectively what he was saying was there is change that is going to come. And that change that came, it affected the world forever. It wasn't just a rain. They were not used to seeing rain, but this particular rain, it came and it affected the world. It changed the world forever. Donald J. Trump is a very interesting man. They got this commercial out, talk about Dosaki. And in that commercial, they talk about how interesting it is with respect to another man or another country. It's interesting, right? Donald Trump is a very interesting person, and he is probably the most polarized individual that our current history will ever know. And I'm saying that because what his assignment is, he's on an assignment to change the trajectory of how we move, operate, and we have our being forever. I'll talk about forever versus eternity and all that. That's a whole different thing, because forever is not forever, because forever gets tossed into eternity. So that means that forever has a ending point. That's for another time. But Donald Trump is very, very instrumental in this change now, as Noah was very instrumental in his change. And so he is implementing some things that I am not, by no means am I joyful as it relates to how this is going to make people feel, and how it's going to make people hop, dance, and jump. Because for the majority of people, it's going to be very detrimental. There is a bucket of people that are going to sing his praises, right? Those are the people that have lived and conducted themselves in such a way that change can happen without affecting them too negatively. It's going to affect in a negative way. And the reason why it's going to happen, because God is behind it. Now, I know a lot of people don't like this, and I've been saying this as well for a while. And people, they say somebody gonna kill Donald Trump. I was talking to one of my buddies on yesterday, and he said, man, that effing Donald Trump and this, that, and the other. I just listened to him. Somebody gonna assassinate him. And ain't nobody gonna assassinate him, because he's sent from God. He is on an assignment to do something that only he can do. He is on an assignment to carry out a mission for God. And I know a lot of y'all gonna shoot me for this right here, because y'all look at it and you say, how can a loving God, this, that, and the other? Well, all this has to be worked through. We have to work all this through. But let me just bear with me. He's sent. He's not righteous. Okay, he's like King Jehu in the Bible. He's not righteous, but he's appointed. He's anointed to do what he's doing right now. And let me just tell you this, can't nobody stop him. Ain't nobody gonna stop him. And the reason why ain't nobody gonna stop him, because he's sent from God. Now, that ain't gonna set well with a whole lot of people. I know for a fact that he is sent from God. Because of the way that the world is going, God has to bring about a shift. He has to bring about a change. Now, We have been given an opportunity for several years, maybe at least uh, 12 consecutive years, to bring about a change, something like that. You had Democrats in there for a long time, and they were not successful. They may have attempted, they may have looked at it, but they didn't know how to follow through. They didn't know how to carry it out. And so the world now has gotten worse and worse and worse. Enough of that rhetoric right there. The eighth watch, what we were dealing with on last week and what we're going to conclude with today, hopefully, if the Lord says the same, God help us today, is going to be challenging, especially for Black people and brown people. I'm going to say that again. The eighth watch, which represents being vigilant and it represents change. Now, I'm not going to get back into the biblical piece of it. I talked about that on last week, but it deals with Jesus being transformed. In the transformation, I gave you a prayer point or prayer points to pray about, and that is to pray about your change, about your transformation, and going from one state to another state, and how that is to play out in your life. Being the eighth watch deals with a new beginning. It deals with a change, something that we have never seen before, right? Or never seen at this level, to this degree before. It is going to mean something very significant and challenging, especially for Black people. Now, COVID was here, and COVID affected everybody. It didn't discriminate. It was a virus that was here. And this is going to be much like COVID, like a virus, but it is going to discriminate. And one of the reasons why it's going to discriminate, because God has given us as a people to do certain things, to position ourselves. This is the reason why I say the eighth watch is a watch about being vigilant. Vigilant now is not, you don't prepare for a war when you hear the first sound of a bomb. You have to prepare for a war years in advance. Okay, if you're going to be able to survive what is going to happen. If not, you're gonna need to be carried through, and you're gonna need grace and mercy, like the Black folks say, show enough. You're gonna need a whole lot of grace and mercy. One of the things that I have harped on, especially for us, because I have a heart for my people. And that's not to not have a heart for all people. I just say this because all the time I say this is the concern, because this is where the house that's on fire is at. For the most part, it's everywhere, but for the most part, who's going to burn is the ones that's already down. So if you're already down and you're not taking heed to what is being told to you, it's going to mean that your life is going to get worse. Okay. So one of my challenges have been education, trying to get that across to people, getting into an apprenticeship program, some type of an apprenticeship, some type of trade, to learn these types of things, because you're going to need something. I mentioned a week ago, 2 weeks ago, or something like that, about King Nebuchadnezzar, and he instructed his eunuch, his chief eunuch. He says, "Go and get me certain men, certain types of men." We are in a day now where you're going to have a certain type of quality in order for you to excel. All right. I mentioned that there's going to be a divide, and the divide is here. I promise you, it's here right now. And it's going to start to separate the haves from the have nots, the prepared from those that are unprepared. I am seeing right now that is currently affecting me, because I have a business, and my business deals with tenants and this, that, and the other. Things that have already affected my tenants that are on some type of government assistance and this, that, and the other. Things are already being cut from them. Now they're having to make an adjustment. In turn, I'm going to have to make an adjustment as well. The issue or the difference is that my adjustment won't be like their adjustment. Why? Because I heard from the Lord years ago, and I started to pray years ago for something that I didn't quite understand what God was telling me to do. All I did was I became vigilant, and I started to pray about it, and I started to get busy for it. So I went through a time where and during this time it was very strenuous for me. I went through a divorce. I lost jobs on and off, had to move from one city to another city. I had businesses. Some of the businesses folded. Some of them, they didn't. I was going to school full time. I had a lot of things that was going on. I was in ministry, trying to maintain a household with a family, just all types of things that I was doing. And I was hearing God speak to me about what was going to come, and how to prepare. One of the things that he said to me, and I've said this, but I'm a bit reluctant to say it again, but I'm going to say it, because maybe now some of your eyes are starting to open. I said the Lord spoke to me over 20 years ago, 20 to 25 years ago. And I'll never forget it. He said to me, he says, by the time you get to retirement age, Social Security won't be around. Now, I've said this to people, and it's not, there's receipts. And I've said this, the Lord spoke this to me over 25 years ago. I've been saying this throughout the years. We are at a point now, and I didn't understand it, because I was like, there's no way we pay into Social Security, this, that, and the other. I don't know if you can see, but there's a shift that's taking place. I am starting to understand that in the next 4 to 5 years, I can kind of now see that maybe Social Security just might not be there. Now, when the Lord said this to me, I thought he was crazy. I said, "This ain't no way that the Social Security won't be there." They talking about taking away the IRS. That's just talk. So just a little fact talk, right? So anyway, I'm gonna get into my little points here that I want to talk to you about. I'm just throwing some things at you, to kind of conclude our eighth watch, because the eighth watch deals with change, and it also deals with vigilance. But we have somebody now that is arresting our attention, whether we want it to not, whether we want him to do it or not. Now, I'm here for a very unique reason, because I'm a weird guy, right? God talks to me. He's had me isolated. He says things to me that's really troubling and strange, and it's really weird. But there was an issue with Israel, with the Philistines in the Bible, and it was a big old giant. They called him Goliath. And there was a person there that heard about this enemy that would defy the children of Israel. And there was this little ruddy boy that had been behind the scenes, but he was being conditioned. He was fighting lions and tigers and bears. Oh my. And he wasn't before the people. They didn't have the cameras on him. It wasn't like cameras action. The curtains had not opened up. Nobody could vet what he had been through, what his testimony. Nobody could do that. All he knew is that I fought a bear and I defeated a bear. I fought a lion and I defeated a lion. And who was this uncircumcised Philistine? I'm saying that to say this, that I am only here, and I'm hoping that I can usher this out to you, because there is something that I want to tell you about the church that's coming to the church. I am here because, just as David said, is there not a cause? I don't benefit from this. I don't get paid from this. There's nothing. I'm just being obedient because the Bible says, the word says that the obedience is better than sacrifice. So I'm here because there is a cause for me to be here, and there is a purpose. God now is looking for people that can see a cause and can be purpose driven. That they can see a cause and can be purpose driven. Now, I really want you to stay tuned into me, because as I've said before, as we've come together, that I'm a forerunner. I'm a forerunner spiritually. I'm a forerunner financially. I'm a forerunner from a health standpoint. There's a lot of challenges that I have had that have conditioned me and prepared me for such a time as this. And so when David says, who was this uncircumcised Philistine? I can say the same thing in my own right, because I have fought giants and I continue to fight giants in my life. And I have a lot of face time, a lot of interaction with demons of various types, that I can come to you and I can talk to you about them, because we have spent time together. And so now we're at this place. And so we got to deal with it. I want to highlight a couple points. And this right here is going to be like a smorgasbord that we're going to get today. The first thing, I want to bring this scripture to the forefront, and it is in our backdrop today. And it is taken out of Proverbs 14 and 34. And it talks about righteousness righteousness exalts a nation. Righteousness exalts a nation, but sin is a reproach to any people. That's going to be our foundation today. Now, why am I saying that? Because in the end, the Bible is right. And in the end, God is going to get you, me, everybody, the nation out of the jam that it's in if righteousness prevails. The issue that we're dealing with right now, the reason why Donald J. Trump is sent on this assignment, is because there is no righteousness in the nation. Now, you look at it from the standpoint that he ain't no good. That's how we say it. He's a bad person. He's this, that, and the other. Well, God didn't hire him for his goodness. God hired him because he was able to follow through with what God needed to take place, and that is to judge a nation. And so now you have these programs that are being implemented, and we all involved, no matter what our status is. Just like I mentioned about my people that I get my income from, I am being affected. I'm being touched, right? We all gonna be touched. When Daniel went into Babylon, it wasn't because he was in sin. He went into Babylon because Israel, the nation, was going into Babylon to be judged for some 70 years, and God needed representation in Babylon. And so the church now has to go where this problem is. And one of the reasons why the church is going where the problem is, because the church, as an overarching entity, has not been in place to prevent these things from happening to the nation. That's primarily the reason why we are going, or we are where we are right now, is because the church has lost its salt, its savor, its effectiveness to do what God has called it to do. So the world now cannot look to the church. And so the world and the church both are in judgment. I want to bring these points out, and I just food for thought. And I want to talk a little bit about, or highlight a couple things as it relates to what we are looking at right now with Donald Trump and Elon Musk. Wasteful spending. We as a country are sending over 5 million annually for women to go to school in Afghanistan, where the Taliban, whatever you want to call them, where they are at. And we are sending this out. There's no checks, there's no balance to it. And it's going over to support. This is the line item now that is going over to support women to go to school, when we know that Afghanistan women of the Taliban will not allow their women to go to school. So my question now, because we have a very informed and abreast and smart government, political structure around us, where's all the money going? If you send an over 5 million for furthering education for people to go to school that can't go to school, how is that going to benefit them? One, and how is it going to benefit us? Is it an act of benevolence, or is it, this is where DOGE comes in now, DOGE, Department of Government Efficiency. This is where this comes in, when we start dealing with criminal fraud and abuse. So if the $5 to $6 million is going out, where is it going to? Who's really benefiting? The United States gave Afghanistan $87.9 million to support farmers, boost the production of the poppy seed. Now, anybody know anything about poppy seed? Poppy seed is drugs, hard drugs. Criminal, fraud, and abuse. Why did we give $87.9 million to support farmers to grow poppy seed? I may have said 87 billion before the 87 million. $7 billion in Black Hawks, Hummers, Humvees, whatever you call those big wide, things that military have, and other light armed weapons was given over to the Taliban, was just left there. $7 billion worth to help aid them in whatever their mission was under the Biden administration. Criminal, fraud, and abuse. That's neglect of money. Now, I'm gonna give you this right here, because now all of a sudden this is polarized, and we have a 37 trillion dollar deficit, and people now want to talk about this. Is something that I've been talking about for a long time. I'm the one that comes to say that I'll give you $5,000 if you need it, but I'll fight over 1 nickel, and I mean that thing, and I have done it. I will aid on a personal level, my little level. I will aid and give you $1,000. But if you tell me that let me borrow 100 and I'm gonna pay you back next week, and you don't pay me back my $100, see, I account. It's about accountability. So now it's like I gave you that on good faith, And I want it based upon your word. I want you to give that back to me because I wasn't just giving that to you. I gave it to you for a purpose. And I want you to give it back because now we're going to have a problem. And we're just talking about $100, talking about $5, $15, whatever it is, because I'm a person of principle, which I have been harping on that everybody needs to bite off a little bit of this, being people of integrity. I'm coming. Don't worry. I'm coming. From 03 to 09, from 03 to 09, we, the government, spent 50 billion in misappropriated and wasteful spending abroad. From 03 to 09. From 09, which includes Trump, he was a part of the problem too. See, I don't discriminate. He was part of it. But see, here's the thing, and I got to get to this 45 to 47. He was the 45th president and the 47th president. But I'm gonna show you where that had to be. Because if he would have been president, the 46th president, he wouldn't have been able to do what he's doing right now because he didn't know enough. And when he first got in to be the 45th president, he was not a politician. He wasn't polished. He didn't know how the government ran. He didn't know none of that stuff. So the spending, he was being pushed along and going with the inertia or the current that was already in place. From 09 to 2023, we spent, it was 50 billion from 03 to 09. From 09 to 23, we spent in excess of 250 billion waste, fraud, and abuse. And he was a part of that. But watch now. They don't get him in as the 46th president. But while he's not in as the 46th president, he has 4 years where he can understand the system. Now he's on the outs, but he's watching and he understands. He's saying, okay, wait a minute, this is how this whole thing works. I got it now. And so God allows Biden to get in for the 46, not Trump. Because Trump still didn't have what it takes in order to do what God wanted to take place if he would have been the 46th president, because he would not have known. But now, 4 years later, he watching all this stuff happen. Not only that, he going through getting hit, lawsuits, this, that, and the other. He watching all the dynamics. And see, it takes somebody that's been through some trials and tribulations in order to bring people out. That's the reason why I raised the point about David and Goliath and the bear and the lion. That's the reason why I raised the point about me, health, sicknesses. I know about being sick. I know about being healed. I know about going through. I know about being broke. I know about bankruptcy. I know about all that stuff. I also know about going to the top and going to the top fast. I know about a whole lot of stuff. So I ran the gamut because I've been in the fire long enough. You got to be in the fire long enough to be able to talk about it and to be able to understand it, to be able to have an answer for it. But what we're going to discover is that all those that was in there on a certain side, they were in it a long time, but that wasn't their oil. That wasn't their oil. See, that's why we getting all messed up when we think that just because you're a politician, that you know what's best for people. You don't know what's best for people. I don't know how you were cultured. I don't know who raised you. I don't know what you've been taught, this, that, and the other. Just because you know politics and you went to school to be what do they call that? Political science. You in the political science, that don't mean that you can get out and balance a checkbook or to know how to properly appropriate funds. That don't mean that you know that, right? It just means that you get in there and you know how to work politics, bureaucracy. You know how to deal with all that stuff. So where we are is we've been challenged with people with a Christmas mentality. I'm gonna get to the GM part because I know that's what y'all waiting for. I'm gonna get to the GM part here in a minute. Just hold tight, because it ain't just GM, it's GM, the church, and politics. Okay, that I've experienced, right? So we've dealt with a Christmas mentality. Y'all know what the Christmas mentality is? That means that foolishly, I feel like I don't want to say dumb, but I feel it coming up out of me, because what I don't understand is we live our lives like it's Christmas. And that means is that we don't think things through. That means that we give people a credit card. And this is what Elon Musk's task is to take the credit card and rip the credit card up. Why? Because we got this credit card and we take this credit card and we just spend it because it's unlimited use, unlimited funds. And so you just go out and you had this mentality that I'm just going to keep on spending and spending, but there's no checks, there's no balance, there's no checks, there's no balance to what we are doing. And so we find ourselves where I went out and I bought all this stuff, 5 Christmases ago, and I'm still paying on that on this same credit card. And the Christmas after that, I'm paying on it. And the Christmas after that, I just keep on using this credit card. So that's where we at. And that's where this country came from. And it can get so top heavy to where you get people like me. I can't have a voice because I'm outnumbered. This has been my problem. My problem has been I've been outnumbered. I was outnumbered at GM. I was outnumbered in the church. And people that's in the government is top heavy. And it's been a few of us that can speak to those powers. But now change is here. And ain't nothing nobody can do about it. I'm going to get there. I got a question. Kamala Harris was the border czar. Am I right? Am I wrong? I know I'm right. The question is, what did she do? Rhetorical question. Now, but more than that, Kamala Harris ran a 90-day race against Trump. Now, again, I'm not pro-Trump. I'm not pro-Republican. I'm not pro-Democrat. But she ran a race against her opponent. 90 days. Good race. She raised a whole lot of money wastefully, fraud, criminal, and abuse. Was it $1 billion? I think it was like $1 billion that she raised. I want y'all to think about this now, because y'all all said that we should get Kamala in. And I wasn't against Kamala. I heard God, though. I heard God. He said, that ain't going to be good. That is not going to be good. All right, now watch this. Donald Trump lost, not this election, he lost against Biden. They said the election was rigged. I don't know, right? He lost. When he lost, he went back to the drawing board. He never left the scene. Every time we turned around, we heard about Trump. Trump this, Trump that, Trump this, Trump that. The whole 4 years, he was not in office. Trump doing his thing. Ain't left. It's almost like he's still working as a president. Still trying to figure some stuff out. I got a question for you. Kamala lost. Biden is out. Obama been out. Where are they? Where are they? Why is not, if Kamala Harris was supposed to be y'all's president and she was supposed to be so good for the country and this, that, and the other, I mean, y'all just with her crazy self, just going crazy. Kamala. And this ain't, I'm not a male chauvinist, it's not that, but she crazy. What I'm saying is, why is she silent now? I want to know, y'all, why is she silent? Why is she not still in the fight? See, this is the reason why I raised this issue about me being here right now. I'm here because, as David said, is there not a cause? and a purpose. But now Kamala was never in it. She never had her heart in it. We won, Joe. We won. It wasn't never nothing about that. What it was about was an assignment to a glorified position. Because if she had her heart in it and she was in it, she would still be in it. Trump was. I'm gonna give Biden a pass because Biden old and sick. But your boy Obama, he got in there and talked and try to check brothers. Where he at now? They showed a picture of him the other day. Him and Michelle, they out to lunch. They got theirs. Like LeBron said in the bubble. He says, I got mine. Y'all got to get yours. You see where this thing is going now. Now, just hold on. Just hold on. I got this. This is some stuff. Now, we gave $57 billion to Ukraine. We gave $57 billion to Ukraine. And for what? To do what? To help with what? 57 billion. United States is always the with nothing in return. No bonds. No, don't sign on the dotted line. You ain't got to pay me back. Just 57 billion. Now I want to contrast that or juxtaposition that with reparations. Not that I'm saying that reparations should just be given, because reparations need to be appropriated too. But that's not the point. What I'm saying is the government got it to give. And Black people built this country. They was built on the sweat and the backs of Black people. Now you got all the Orientals, the brown people, most of them, they come over, what they get it. The Jews got it. And everybody get reparations except the Black people. And I understand it's got to be a way that we have to appropriate reparations. My point is this though, 57 billion and you just gave it. An unnecessary war that's going on right now under the Biden administration. And yet Black folks out here that paved the way for all this been screaming for reparations for 100 billion years. And they did a census, and what it came out, 80% white folks voted down reparations for Blacks, 20% voted for. And then they looked at the Black tally. It was the inverse. 80% voted yes for reparations, 20% Blacks voted no. And those numbers, I'm just rounding those numbers up. It's really 77 and something else, But the point is this. The money was there. And it's the right thing to do. I raised the issue the other day about how God gave the children of Israel from Egypt reparations. Now, I'm going to tell you, this is the reason why I got this point right here about Proverbs 14 and 24. Righteousness exalts a nation, and sin is the reproach to any people. It's going to happen. Reparations God is going to balance out the table. Now, it ain't going to be like we think. You ain't going to get the money and build a golden calf. But you're going to do right. Because right now, this is where we are right now. And it's all coming to a head. But it's going to look like Black people are going to be smashed in it. It's going to look like that. But God is only doing that because Black folks strive the most way back when they had their foot on them really hard, and Black folks is more wittier. Black folks came up with more inventions. Black folks did they did a whole lot. But now all of a sudden it seemed like as as colorful, as whimsical as black folks are, as smart, scientifically, mathematically, all this as black folks are, why are we sitting on the fence? Why are not you leading? Why aren't you leading? You got it all up here. You definitely got it all right here. Blacks can lead in sports and all this stuff. And that's fine and good. And you get behind, you talk about, tell your son, I'm gonna send him to this camp and that camp and all this kind. No, that's good. But we need to know, we need more push towards science. We need more push towards mathematics. We need more push towards you working the purpose in your life. We need more of a spiritual push. We need somebody that can look and have eyes to see a brother and a sister to bring out that God put on the inside of them. Because it's both, it's spiritual and it's natural. Okay, so now where is this going to look? See, the Bible talks about what the enemy meant for good, God turned around for bad. What the enemy meant for bad, God turned around and worked it for your good. So that's why I'm telling you, don't get mad at me. This is the reason why I'm a forerunner. Because I'm telling you what God is going to do. It's going to be a lot of y'all, us, that's going to be out there, and we're going to look real bad for a period of time. So this is going to kind of be like a COVID thing, but it's in many regards, it's going to be worse. And I told you, I said, it's something coming. It's something coming. Now, they ain't even started yet. We in the first 30 days that they rolling stuff out, and they coming with the thunder. They coming. And I'm telling you, watch ain't nobody going to assassinate him because God is behind it. But sometimes you got to tear down in order to build up. See, I know this because I'm a builder. And so I can look at a house from a distance. I did this for a long, long time. I've been in this for 35 years, over 35 years. And I can see a house from a distance and the house look okay. We represent a house from a distance until I get up on it. And when I get up on it, see, I'm at the place now to where I don't look at the house. I look in the house. This is what happened to me when I was 16, 17, 18, 19, 20 years old, when I was looking at the girl. And when I looked at the girl, I desired everything on the outside of her instead of looking into her and seeing what does she have in there. What's in there? Because the outside is just, that ain't nothing but meat on the bone. But it's the inside that's going to get you to where you need to get to. So I can look at a house from a distance and then I come up on it and I say, a house need this and need that and need that. And then I said, well, how's that going to get done? The only way that's going to get done, I got to start tearing stuff apart. So now I'm at a place to where I'm looking at all of us, and I've been talking to the mothers out there. All these little kids out here ain't got no father. And I go there on the street and I'm working at a house right next door to them. And they mothers come over, which they kids themselves. And I'm looking at all these kids, mothers as kids, giving birth to kids. Now you just got kids everywhere growing up, even the grandparents as kids. And I'm looking at them because I got eyes to see. And I'm saying, Lord, help us. And so now God speaks to me, said, help is here. But it ain't going to look like help. It's going to look like persecution. But when I was trying to get you some help, when I was trying to get your attention, when I was trying to tell you, no, we can't do that. Turn the heat down. We got to manage over. We got a budget over here. You just can't go out and spend money on Louis. You can't go out and buy that house. You can't go out and buy that car. That's not the right car for you to get right now. Don't leave home. Stay home for a little bit. Save your money. Do this, do that. All this. No, I got to do it my way. Okay. Boom. Now, all of a sudden, as Will Smith, and I don't like to use his name, now you speak English. Oh, you speak English now, because now the hammer down. Now the hammer down, right? And so now we got to figure this whole thing out. 57 billion to Ukraine reparations. GM, because I got to close. I'm over my time. GM, the church, contrast to politics. I want to tell you something about myself, how I understand all this, and to show you how such a big, wonderful corporation can be so messed up, but it can be so beautiful. Two things happened to me. There was a spiritual part that I need to tell you about, and there's a natural part. I had an opportunity to go to General Motors. I actually worked at General Motors 3 times. But let me tell you this. I'll give you this natural side and then the spiritual side. The Lord told me, I was working at a place, I was in, come from Mansfield, Ohio, and I worked at a place called the Steel Mill. It was Empire Detroit Steel, Armco, it's AK Steel, maybe something else now. I don't even know what it is now. I worked there for 17 years. The steel mill had trouble. It was up and down. It was cyclic. And I'll never forget, it went through a time, and I can't remember all the dates. I just remember the experience. I went through a time where the steel mill was challenged and we went down for a little bit. And I went and worked for my cousin, and he gave me an opportunity to work at General Motors. He was working there as he was a manager. And he hired me in this division of General Motors called GMARA, something like that. Can't remember now. And before I went, the Lord gave me grace to go, but he said this to me. He says, I don't ever want you to work at General Motors. Now, I'm going somewhere. Y'all got to stay with me because this is critical. Okay. General Motors was the cream of the crop. I was working in the steel mill. I was making good money, but I never made the money that General Motors made. The steel mill went down, so I had to find somewhere to work. So during that time, God was giving me grace. So I went. That was no permanent fixture. I was going to work for GMARA, which is a subsidiary of GM. When I was there, I was learning the landscape. And I never forget the voice of the Lord. He says, I don't ever want you to work at General Motors. So I went there anyway. I didn't do what he told me to do. And I went and did what I wanted to do. I went there. And while I was there, I learned some things. And I learned the system. Now, this is where management was in the bed with, it was management and union was in the bed together. Now, I am of the persuasion, and I am a proponent of hard work. I'm a proponent of hard work. I said this, and I'll continue to say it. I don't know nobody work harder than me. I just stopped working. Okay, but I don't know nobody work harder than me. And I hear people talk about, such as the hardest working man in radio, and Stephen A, the hardest working man on ESPN, and this, that, and that. I don't care what you say. I know what I do. I don't know nobody work harder than me. With everything, school, ministry, up and down the highway, building. I mean, 2 and 3 businesses just around the clock. I don't know nobody work harder than me. So I got a certain work ethic. I started my first job at 16 years old, and I worked at this place called Clancy in Mansfield. I had to walk down this street, lived on Bowman Street, had to walk down the street, walk down to Bowman, and then I had to make a right on Harker, and I'd walk all the way down Harker. Then I had to catch McPherson. I had to walk the whole length of McPherson. And then I had to make another left on Trimble and walk all the way down Trimble to 4th Street. On the right-hand side was a place called Clancy's, and I flipped burgers. And I walked there every day to and from. I ran, actually. Been doing this since I was 16 years old. I'm a man. I'm a proponent of hard work. I ain't never wanted no handout. Never, ever. So You're talking to a guy that 2 weeks before my father died, we were taking him to the hospital, to the doctor. It wasn't the hospital, taking him to the doctor. He had to go get see his doctor. And it was a place called Galleon we had to go to. And we in the car driving in, and it was me, him, and my oldest brother. And we got talking about General Motors. And I told them, I said, if I had my way, I said, I would have fired both of y'all. Now, my dad wasn't no lazy man. I got my work ethic from my dad. But my dad got caught up in a system. I want y'all to hear me. I'm going somewhere with this. My dad got caught up in a system, in a culture, to where my dad was a crane operator and he was known for going to work. He worked midnights most of his time. And at midnight, what he went there to do, because I experienced it, because I worked there, and you can't get him to do nothing. So what they was known to do, you leave, you just got out to bed, and then you go to work and you go to bed. So he would go up in the crane and go to sleep. And you better not call him. And if you do call, it's a certain way that you got to do that. You got to ease into that thing, right? So I told him and my brother he's from a different cut. And I said, let me tell you something. I said, if it was me, and I meant this thing, I said, neither one of y'all could work for me. My dad couldn't work for me because what he had indoctrinated himself with, he drank the Kool-Aid and started believing the hype of General Motors. And General Motors became their own little world out there. And they believed that they was better than everybody. And so when you walked into the environment, it was like walking into a whole different city. And so now I was used to, unaccustomed to going to work. It's just like, the Bible says, and the Lord spoke to me. He says, you were too much for General Motors. So when you get inside of there, these people would treat you like, they would just look at you like you was crazy. You better not step to them. Just a whole different type of culture. So my brother embraced this culture as well. He worked there for a few years, and every time he turned around, it was a committee man. Anyway, I was going to say something. I forgot what I was going to say. Anyway, I was working this job where I was in charge of the machine cleaners. And the machine cleaners, they got to make sure that, ain't no oil on the different things, so the millwrights and electricians and all that stuff, they can work. So this is my first wave. So I would go in and I would ask certain people, give them an assignment at night. This is what you got to do, because I got my assignment. My boss gave me my assignment, blah, blah, blah. And so I would say, hey, we got this to do. We got to go transfer presses over here. We got to go, back on J line, L line, whatever it was. I don't remember all the stuff now. On the press room, do this, do that. And where I came from, you just didn't have to pull teeth to get somebody with a mop and some oil, some dissolver, to just go and mop up in the area. It's got oil on the floor right there. Put some oil dry down and, just mop it up. Now I'm trying to get y'all to see what didn't happen to America, because it's a cultural thing. And this is where I experienced, where I got a real good taste of it. And this is why I said the other day, I said General Motors wasn't no good. And I meant that thing. So I got these people I'm giving these assignment to, because I understand my background. My dad raised us to work. Most of us. He raised us to work hard, even though he didn't drink his own Kool-Aid as he got older. Okay? But he raised us to work pretty hard. And so my brothers are all pretty successful. Pretty substantially successful. You go back to Mansfield, it is not too many that would raise the bar higher than the Eatman brothers. And we did a study on that. So anyway, I'm calling these guys and I'm saying, hey, this is going to take a little time today. Don't worry about it. This is going to be my last extended message. So I said, hey, can you go do this? I get cussed out. I mean, cussed out royally. But this is where it's going to get good here. So I put the people, now check this out now. The people that I'm in charge of, I go to church with the people. And it's strange that your brother and your sister, the one you call brother and sister at church, when you get to the job, ain't no more brother, ain't no more sister. You got a job to do, I got a job to do. Now, they didn't like me being their boss. I was nice. Like I said the other day, I said I did everything but lick mess. I came at them everywhere I could. So I said, I need you to do this, do that, get a royal cussing out. And I'm looking at myself. Now, I'm getting hives. Understand, I was working, trying to figure out what I'm going to do, how I'm going to do this. I just bought a new house. My wife at the time, she wasn't working. We trying to figure this out. I got kids. I didn't want to put my kids in daycare. So we had an agreement. It's just all kind of stuff going on. So I got to figure this whole thing out. So now I'm stressed. I'm completely stressed out because I don't understand why they doing this. Now, I put them on notice. That's this thing that you do. You say you don't do your job and put you on notice. Put them on notice. Put them on notice. We work at midnight. Corruption. Watch this. They get a high, potent, no name, straggly little, all type. They just wasn't nothing, but they gave them position as what they call them committee men. And on the street in the real world, if you would have just walked a mile down the street at that time, I wasn't deep enough. I would have whooped your tail. So, but when you get into that culture now, same way with government, you got all these people in there, Barney Fifes type people. And in the real world, they ain't going to stand up if they lock. That's why a certain types of people can't go to prison, because when you get there, oh, you ain't big and bad in here. But you's big and bad on the outside. Why? Because you got power behind you. So I put them on notice. They called a committee man. Committee man come in, stop the whole show, shut me down. Now, when he shut me down, he shut down production. He shut down the machine. And what they say, down on Eatman, down on Eatman, down on maintenance. Eatman can't. Now he got me in a crazy situation because it's my brother, number one, from church. And I'm here and I'm talking to him saying, man, listen, we got to get this job done, right? Not only that, it was so many things. I friends of my dad, right, that we all used to be at the same house together. But as soon as they put me in a place where I would have to give them an assignment that they already knew, all they had to do is just go and do the job. But culture that you get used to. Committee man come over. What's going on, Eatman? They ain't like me no way. They don't like nobody. Or maybe they own. I don't know. It's just a really weird setup that they used to have. I don't know what's going on now. So we going through arguing. We arguing for 3 hours. So now production is down. General Motors losing money. They doing it all on me. They blaming it on maintenance. They blaming it on Eatman. Well, he's in charge. He can't control the machine cleaners. Blah 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 blah. Next morning, I got him on, and I know I did everything. Now I went and got other people that's working and doing their job, and now they got to come and fill in and do somebody else's job that when I came in, they went to sleep. And I go get them because I find all these hiding spots, right? So now I'm calling my people that I work for, say, hey, listen, man, this is what happened, blah, blah, blah. So the next day, HR, I got to go to HR. I go to HR, they call labor relations. I go to labor relations, and I'm sitting there. See, this is what's messed up. So and I blame the top to the bottom. This is management. I got in my notes change management. That's what's going on right now is change management. But the change management that I experienced wasn't the change management we're going to experience, but we're going to do it in the inverse. And now the other side is going to feel it. That's the reason why everybody that's Democrat, that you call yourself Democrats, that's the reason why y'all crying right now. And that's why I can identify with you, because that was me. Okay, but what nothing that I could do about it, but chalk it all up. But check this out. So labor relations come in, and you think that labor relations, I'm company. You would think that they would have my back. Now I'm going, because this is just ain't in this spot, because I got hired there 3 times. Okay, 3 times. So with the GMARA, I can kind of understand, because they say, well, you know, they a temp service, blah blah. We ain't gonna fight for them too much. But what happened the other times that I came in there and I wasn't? One time I was full employee, and another time it was a high ranking contractor. Okay, where I was really had my hands in it. So anyway, labor comes in, and labor just looking at you, and they write down this, that, and the other. And next thing you know, they tallying up the points against you. I'm saying, what in the world what kind of stuff is this? What the haberdash? I'm thinking that, you know, that they're gonna be on my side, and this person, I got him on notice right now. The thing that needs to happen to him is he needs to get 3 time off. Now, it reversed, because they got this Philadelphia lawyer in the form of a committee man. He comes in, he's talking to the HR representative, supposed to be high ranking, like he a piece of trash. Come to find out, y'all, I gotta cut it short, because I got more to give you. They all in the bed together. So I'm saying, what kind of haberdash is this? So I'm walking around now, and I'm thinking, I thought they was on my side. Now, check this out. These people that's my brothers and my sisters, I'm going to HR and talking to HR like the next morning and explaining that to just people that was in the church that worked in there. And all they did was look at me. You know the reason why? Let me tell you the reason why I scurry along. It wasn't affecting them. That's the reason why I said, I'm here. David said, is there not a cause? See, right now, I don't need them. And the reason why they didn't do nothing, because it was General Motors. They was buying trucks and boats and houses. They was doing so much. I mean, you say you work at General Motors. General Motors was iconic. They were gods in Mansfield. Wait a minute. Because I can't leave this part out. I just remembered it. And I'm not going to say that this happened because of me. This is on record, by the way. It's on the tapes. I preached it before many people. God gave it to me, told me to preach it. I preached it. This was many years ago. I'm talking about General Motors in Mansfield. It's on record, y'all. I got receipts. I preached. I'm not calling myself no prophet, no nothing, right? I just preach what God gave me. Like I'm going to give y'all some stuff that God gave me here. I'm going to finish this today. And the Lord said, tell them that General Motors is going to shut down. And now I'm a young preacher, but I could hear God speak to me. And I like, Lord, I ain't no way I can tell them. They already don't like me. And he said, tell them that General Motors is going to shut down. So I did my message, but then worked it in. I said, General Motors is going to shut down. Oh, boy, did I get kicked at for that one. I was already not popular, but at that point, I went completely cold, right? Can I tell y'all something? In Mansfield, none of them believed what I said. They said the dude is cuckoo for Cocoa Puffs. Get him out of here. We don't like him. No way. Blah, blah, blah. After I said that, it was maybe 2 years, if that. General Motors, Mansfield, the plant shut completely down. Now, I'm saying this because righteousness exalts a nation. I knew that what I was looking in on, it couldn't survive that. It's what I'm trying to get you to see about the country. When I look at what's going on around us, it can't survive. This economy, this nation, the way that we are handling things, it will not survive. And so my prayer has been, God, I'm just a little guy out here. Ain't nobody listening to me, but I see what the problem is, and it's got to get corrected. And so I just keep praying and keep watching and keep being obedient. So God has said a lot of things to me, and he's positioned me in certain ways to where now I'm looking back, and when I look back over my life, that's what they say. When I look back this way, I can see a lot of the stuff that God was doing for me. Now he's bringing things to a head. He's bringing so many things to a head. Now I did that because I got more to talk about General Motors because GMARA didn't fire me. But when I was working I quit as a union person. I quit because they had me on the line. I was over metal assembly. And at that time, I left. I was working both jobs, the steel mill job as an electronic technician, as journeyman. And because I got so caught up in the Kool-Aid of General Motors, iconic General Motors, they told me that if General Motors give you a job, you got to go to that, boy. And God told me don't go to General Motors. So instead of me, I didn't quit the steel mill. I worked both of them for about 3 weeks, maybe a month. I worked them both. And then I ended up quitting that. But I got fired when I worked there as a contractor, and I was over maintenance, basically, right? Had electricians, had the millwrights, the machine repair, pipe fitters, and all that. I got fired. Now, this is how I got fired. I was working there one day, and they never did like me because they didn't like me because the person that got me in, that touched it, was the plant manager. And me and him was cool, but his hands was tied. He couldn't do a whole lot. So he could, but he couldn't. And I understand it now, but at the time I didn't understand it. But anyway, so I go in and I'm working for this guy. And this guy, I knew from the rip. And when you in there, when you ain't supposed to be in a place, you can feel the tension. But let me just say this. Don't let me forget this. I got to give you this part. But let me give you the spiritual part. The spiritual part is this. God told me not to go to General Motors. So you can't never take away what God tells you. Here's the reason why. Minute 12, hour 12 minutes. Here's the reason why. The reason why he said don't go to General Motors, let me tell you. I'm telling myself. It's a spiritual part. See, we all ain't clean. We all ain't, we a lot of us dirty. General Motors just wasn't dirty. I was dirty too. Because I was having an affair. And I was having an affair with the woman that was working at the steel mill. And I was going to the place where her husband was working at, which was General Motors. Now, y'all can judge me, say what you want to say. See, now, the Lord told me this. He said, listen, you don't have a reputation. He says, ain't nothing about you that should be concealed. He said, if my son could hang on the cross bucket naked, show everything. He says, your story, your little stuff it don't mean nothing. No, now watch. Lord already told me don't go. So the first thing is I was disobedient. So now righteousness exalts a nation. I was never supposed to be in General Motors. I was always supposed to be dependent on God. I always did better than the people at General Motors, even though I made a whole lot less, because God had me. He had me set aside for a reason. It's people right now, they say, man, how did you do it? How do I do it now? How? I do it because I'm graced. There's an anointing on my life to do what I do. I can't even tell you how it all works. It's just, It just is. It's like if you go and you talk to a prophet and the prophet tell you, well, you know, you went to bed last night at 9:04 and you remember looking at the clock, it was 9:04. Well, how did you do that if it ain't witchcraft or false prophet or whatever? They do it. They can't explain the gift. So I can't explain to you how I am. I can't. All I noticed is that I was just extremely blessed. Never had to have my wife work at that time. None of that kind of stuff. I never had that. Just was blessed. And there, for whatever reason, my dad was blessed like this. That goes back to my Exodus 12. Take a lamb according to your father's house. Your father's house got good things and it's bad things. I'll get back to that at another time when we start dealing with the skeletons, the demons of our past and our ancestors and our bloodline. But in our bloodline, there's blessings too. It ain't just curses, it's blessings too. So my dad was an uneducated man, but he was a blessed man. He died having more at 86, whatever, however old he was. He died having more than most people in Mansfield that had far more education, that was much more well-spoken than him and all that, but he just excelled, came from the country, blah, blah, blah. What happened? I got that. My brothers got that. Most of them, they got that. Okay, so this is a real thing. So God says, don't go, right? And I'm already blessed. I just needed to trust him and but I couldn't get the badge. I was going out buying General Motors shirts, not buying them, but some dude gave me one and I wanted to wear the GM symbol, iconic GM. God said, no, I'm going to do something different for you. I got to shorten this up because this right here, I got books in me. I promise you, I got books. So I'm working. The Lord tells me not to work. Now check this out. I'm dating, messing around with another man's wife. I get there. Let me tell you what I experienced. My experience that time around was horrible. Was from the pits of hell. I hated it every day. Did I make $100,000? I did make $100,000, and I paid for every penny that I got. I used to go in there, and General Motors had this. It's like this train. It was this thing that came in, it was like magnesium or some type of rocks. I don't know, it was coal. I don't know what it was. It came in this one door, whatever. Anyway, it was, I would have this yellow buggy. It was a 3-wheel buggy, you know, like a go-kart buggy, golf cart. I would be on my buggy going because I got it, you know, I'm all over the place. They call me, I got the radio on. And I remember going to certain areas, and when I would get in these certain areas, I would get these rocks and socks, heavy rocks. Whoosh, boom. And I'd be getting hit in my shoulder. And this wasn't a hard hat facility. So thank God that I didn't get hit in the head. But see, this is a story. This is the part that I didn't tell people about when I got fired. And they said, well, I got fired because of GM, but I didn't get fired because of GM. I got fired because I wasn't supposed to be there. It wasn't my oil. It wasn't my place to be there. But I also got fired because General Motors fired me, and I was there to learn a lesson about the culture as well. And so I'm here, and I'll tell you this. The Lord told me, because when I got fired and I ended up in Cleveland, he said this to me. He said, had I not got you out of there, now check, I got fired, but this is what God said. He said, had I not gotten you out of there, he says, you would have got killed. I said, what? He says, yes. He says, he was going to kill you. Now, check this out. I'm getting these rocks. This was daily. So I'm going to work under duress. I am messed up going in there, and I'm working these long hours, and I could go past this guy and you could see he was like spitting venom. And I'll never forget, it was 1 week. Well, can you imagine this? I'm the foreman, and I had to give this guy his assignment. And I didn't, because I knew it. It wasn't that I was scared. Let me tell you what I was scared of. I was scared of the voice that I heard. The voice told me that you shouldn't be there. So I knew I was already in the lion's den. I knew that I wasn't supposed to be there. But now I got to make a way because I wasn't trusting God. I got to make a way for my family, right? And so I wasn't telling nobody, but I heard God. And my wife at the time, because she knew I was messing around, she never wanted me to go back to the steel mill. She wanted me to be at General Motors because General Motors was a better place because it kept me away from that. But God said, I don't want you at General Motors because General Motors, there's something in there that's going to take your life. And I never told nobody that, but I knew what God said to me. And so God said, had I not gotten you out of here, so it was a setup. He says he was going to kill you. And General Motors, the way it's set up is a city. And looking back on that thing now, he probably could have killed me and got away with it because that's how strong they were. Now, when I got fired, I got good work ethic, right? When I got fired, the guy that I worked for, he gave me, it was an overtime sheet. The overtime sheet had to be in by 9 o'clock. I think it was 9 o'clock. I don't quite remember now. It was either 8 or 9 o'clock every day. I was working days. Was I working days then? I was working days or afternoon. I can't remember now what I was working. But anyways, I remember 9. So he said, he gave me the overtime for me to get everybody lined up for the weekend work. He gave it to me an hour late. So when he gave it to me an hour late, they needed to post it by a certain time. So when he gave it to me, he said, you tell them that I gave it to you at 9. I looked at him and called him by his name. I said, but you didn't give it to me at 9. He said, but you tell them if they ask you that I gave it to you at 9 o'clock. Okay. Now understand, I got a house, I got a car, I got kids. I'm in a pinch. Now, all this I could have avoided had I not even went and just trusted God. So they said the overtime. Now everybody mad at me because I got the overtime list late. And they said it was because of me, but it wasn't because of me. It was because of him. Long story shorter. I've been long now. So I messed up. So they say I messed up. He put it all on me. Next day, I get a call on my walkie-talkie to come to the HR. I had to meet somebody up there, and they said, you got a phone call. So the contracting agency that I was working for, they was on the phone. They said, we need you to pack your stuff up out of your locker, give your radio back, this, that, and the other. They said, you are terminated. You are no longer an employee, with General Motors, blah, blah, blah. 2 days later, y'all, 2 days later, I was working in Cleveland. 2 days. I didn't know what I was going to do. It was all about me trusting God the whole way. He already had provision for me, but because I got caught up drinking the Kool-Aid, I missed God and I almost lost my life. Now there's some other pieces, moving parts that go with that, but I declined to talk about that part. But with all of it, General Motors, here's the bottom line. In contrast to what's going on around us now, that's a crazy story, right? It's a whole lot more. I gave an assignment. He was a pipe fitter. Now keep in mind, y'all, I was a pipe fitter. I had 2 journeyman cars when I went there. And white dude, tall, straggly white dude. This dude, I gave him an assignment. This is how bad General Motors was. And this is another thing that we deal with as a culture and as Black people. I gave him an assignment and he's got a hawker and spit on me. Now, he spit on me and called me a nigger. Now, he did this around his boys. This is why I took issue, because I told important people about this. This is what I mean by if it ain't affecting you, your table, then you okay. I was dying. And I was telling the people that could make a change. Now, if I was talking today, so I don't remember, I was emphatic about it. Dude spit on me. Now, I was saved, and I was real saved in other areas. In areas I wasn't real saved in. Obviously, I wasn't, because I was having an affair in that area. In the other area, had I got that boy outside, I would have beat him to death. I would have beat him to death. But I had so much to lose that I took it. I took it because I knew I had to make a house payment. I knew I couldn't go to jail. I knew that my family had to eat. So it was a lot of things that I took. But why did all that happen to me? Disobedience and unrighteousness. What did I say? Criminal, fraud, abuse. That's what's going on with the country. Now, I juxtapose that to General Motors because I was in a place I wasn't clean and I wasn't righteous. I was unrighteous in many ways. But I'm showing you this. I even went to, I remember I went to go take the test to get into General Motors. And I remember, you know, my boy asking me, he said, "How you think you did?" I said I did really good. I was a pretty smart guy. Okay. And this was a situational test. This wasn't mathematics and all this stuff. So they would ask you questions. We went to Detroit to take the test. And I went there and come back. They say, I flunked. Not only did I flunk the test, I just I bombed it, right? And I said, ain't no way. I said, no way I bombed that. And later on, the Lord talked to me, and he says, you were too much. He says, you answered the questions the way I would have wanted you to answer, in the way that I would have wanted you to behave. He says, but General Motors didn't want your type of answers to be partnered up with them. He says, you were too much. So where you thought that you was answering righteously and ethically, he says that wasn't going to work with them because they were unethical. Now, y'all can get mad at me if you want to, all y'all ex-GM people or GM people now. General Motors, I know it's your company. That's what you work for, blah, blah, blah. And I got some good insight on it. General Motors is corrupt unless something happened. They got a whole lot of problems. And probably ain't just General Motors, probably a whole lot of them out there. But it wasn't just all General Motors. It was Donnie too. Okay, so it was all of it. I thought I would be able to get done with this a little bit more faster, because I got General Motors wasn't just what I wanted to show you, where there was abuse, where there was fraud and corruption and criminal. It wasn't just General Motors. I not only got fired from General Motors, I got fired from the church. Do I need to say this for another time? See, because I can tell y'all stories where the church fired me. Not only did the church fire me one time, I got fired over and over and over again for doing what I'm doing right now. Because I'm at 1 minute and 28 seconds, 28 minutes, and I've never been online for, an hour and 28 minutes. I've never been online an hour and 28 minutes. And I see all kind of people out there, 2 hours, 3 hours, whatever. But for me, you ain't talking about nothing. You ain't holding attention. We don't want to hear about holiness. We don't want to hear about righteousness. We don't want to hear about doing right. So you're fired. We don't want you in the pulpit because you can't hoop the way that we want you to hoop. You're not giving us cake and cookies. You're not sounding off the way that we want you to sound off. You're fired. Don't come back here no more. Pull your coattail. Oh, I know what you can do. Just give. Just pay your tithes and your offering. I didn't get to the part what God told me. I got wakened up last night at 2:47 in the morning. And I've been up from 2:47. I went back to sleep at 7 o'clock because I was writing all this, what God was telling me about what was going to happen in the church. The same way God spoke to me about getting out of General Motors, the same way God spoke to me about Social Security, the same way God told me that General Motors ain't going to be there. These things are on record, on receipt. It's a whole lot of things that God then said and done in my life. The same God came back and told me this, that I'm going to tell the church about, because there are some things now that the church, see, this ain't just no Doge. I want to get to that. This ain't just Doge with the government. This is Doge with the church. Now, y'all watch this, because there's a lot of assemblies that's going to start folding, because people are going to stop giving, because God is going to start calling people like myself that's going to say, is there not a cause and a purpose without money? And so this stuff is going to start showing up. And now he's going to separate the wheat from the tares, because what it is right now, most of the folks that's in the church that's on this glorified assignment, they there because of the glitz and the glamour and the pomp and circumstance. That's why you there. But take away the luxury, take away the cars, take away the offering, take away the tithes and all that stuff. And let me see if you still like Kamala Harris. Let's see if you show up. Let's see if you show up. It's getting ready to get tight, y'all. Watch what I tell you. Watch what I tell you. The scales are coming off the people's eyes. The people are going to stop giving. Then you ain't going to see all these suits. You ain't going to see all these Rolex watches and all this stuff. Where people look at me and say, yeah, let me tell you something. The Lord spoke this to me. He says, when I'm for such a time as this, when I get ready for you, he says, you're going to be in a position where you can support a church on your own. I ain't gonna have to ask the people to carry me. I don't want no cakes, no cookies, all that kind of stuff. I'm not going to beg you to give me, 10%, 20% of the offering and all that. No, I'm in a position where I'm going to give to you. And that's the way we're supposed to be. That's the way Abraham was. That's the way Moses was. See, we ain't got, now you got begging preachers. But you take away their security around them and see how they last. Let the people stop giving, and it's coming. Because change is here. It's coming. And it's going to be a whole lot of sweat and pressure on them. And now let me see how you act. Because, see, I done lived under pressure. I know what it's like. I've been vigilant, and I've done my work. I prepared myself before now because I was obedient to God when he was saying go to school. I went to 13 additional years of school. When he says open up the business, I had 2 and 3 different businesses. I've done it all. I've done for all those years when people were saying, you going back to school again? Look at this old fool over here. Why you keep going back to school? Why you keep doing this? You bought another house now. Who you think you is? All that. I ain't trying to be nobody. What I did, though, is I put a buffer in there because I heard God. I didn't know everything that was going to happen, but I heard God. And so now it's calamity. Let me tell you who it's going to hit the most. Black people. Black people. Now you're going to come up from it, but it's going to hit you because you was already at the bottom. Y'all we already on welfare. All them girls, let me go have 5 babies because I get more food stamps. I get the more babies I have. All that, cutting all that. All that spending is falling up under Doge. Waste. It's waste now. Now you got to go out and you got to get a job. But what you're going to discover is how far you behind the 8 ball. How far you behind the curve. Now you playing catch up. Now it's what us gonna do. Daddy ain't there. When I say daddy, the boy, the sperm donor, he in prison or he ain't no good. Now what us gonna do? And he taking from everything now, pulling from everything. He's got a different optic lens that he looking at stuff. And so all you talk about me, well, man, he's a miser. He this, he that. When I talk to him, I'm on him. I talk to him about business. It's my business. I'm on him. But now everybody gonna start to see, well, he ain't really crazy like we thought he was. And all that stuff that he been trying to teach us, this church stuff, I don't know. Maybe I need to lean in a little bit. Maybe I need to go for more than 3 minutes. Maybe this message is deserving. That's an hour and a half. Maybe I really need to listen to that. Maybe I need to inbox him. I don't know. I'm just saying. It's tight, but it's right. The Kool-Aid got poison in it, y'all. Beware of the Kool-Aid. Thanks for watching. God bless you. God go with you. Godspeed. Share with a neighbor, a friend, an enemy. Until next time. Shalom.